Are we live then?
All right, we're live.
Nice.
Not something that we're going to do a lot during the season because we like to take that day. It's hard to be balanced right away. However, I like to call it fake football, and some people get angry about that. It is preseason football. So what I find fun about preseason football is that you get to see, a lot of players that you're not going to see normally. They're going to be on the practice squad, or they're going to be, back home during the year, right? Because they're not going to be on an NFL team, but you get to see some players, and it's pretty interesting. But what I've always find funny is when announcers want to take it super seriously, and like you get like a young guy, and like he's got his first professional sack. No, he does not.
Sack.
He's got his first professional touchdown. No, he does not. Like it does not count. Like none of these things count. They're nice. It's a nice memory for a lot of these guys, especially when they like a first round rookie. He's got his first touchdown pass. No, he does not. You're going to say that same thing in 4 weeks when he plays in his first real game, and you're going to call it his first touchdown pass then, right? Like, so I always hate that part of preseason. It's like, we don't need to make it more than it is. It's a practice football game, and that's fine. This is different for us because we're not going to be able to do, our normal watch the game again and then kind of like zero in on some players and all that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of a once through. But hit your questions in. We'll give away a T-shirt today.
Nice. 500 level.
I've got the little scroller at the bottom. So if you guys want to check out these T-shirts, it's at 500 levels, the company that we're working with. And if you use Gridiron20 as your promo code, you get 20% off of your order. They've got a bunch of different options. And so like a nice T-shirt. They've got like a baseball shirt on some of them, which I'm going to get the baseball shirt for the book.
The 3/4 sleeve jersey. Yeah, those are sweet.
Yeah. I think they call it baseball, whatever. I think they had it called like a baseball shirt. It's kind of like the raglan look or whatever, where you got like the different. I like that. It looks pretty good. I think it looks good for the lineman one for some reason. We got 5 designs out right now: the Sanborn and the 2 bookend tackles. So the Jack in the Box for Jack Sanborn, and the 2 bookend tackles, Braxton and Darnell Wright, holding up some books. Yeah, kind of funny. Those just dropped to add to the 3 that we already have, and we've got at least a couple that are in the works, and a couple that I've shot some design ideas in. I mean, we might be up to 10 before you know it. So if you have any ideas too, let me know.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, so again, if you want a shirt, we're going to give one to somebody today that's on this deal. I have a medium, a large, and an XL that I can give away. I don't have a double or a small. Don't ask for a medium like Ross Reed did. I don't think that size exists. They are like athletic fit. The ones I have, like, I think they fit more on the tighter end. So just kind of keep that in mind if that means anything to you. But I don't have any sizes other than that. We got a few promotional ones. I'm going to bring some to camp this week when I'm there in Indianapolis, but I can give one away. But like, put your size in, because that's going to determine what I can give away, and we'll figure that out by the end. But are you what are you doing? You got everything up? You got the
I'm good. I'm just I'm trying to share everything to Twitter, because
okay.
It doesn't do automatic tweets anymore for the Windy City Gridiron. So I'm trying to just get everything squared away here. Oh man, I just screwed that up.
So you asked me to wear the shirt that I told you I had. So can you tell that that's gold? This Bearhead's gold.
It's gold. Why is it gold?
I mentioned last time that I bought this during the Super Bowl 50 year. And so everything was gold that year, but it was like I never could wear it because it was too tight. So it was like got thrown in the corner of my closet. And then when I was cleaning out my closet, because of all this, I had to give basically built a new wardrobe after losing a bunch of weight. And now it's a little loose. So it's kind of fun to be like in that spot where like I never could wear it. And now this is it's probably too big, but it's like new shirts. I got like 4 shirts that I had, Bear shirts that I had over the years that I never could wear, and now I can wear 'em.
Guys never throw anything away. For me, I still got shirts that I don't fit or fit me, or I just sizes fluctuate through the decades. So I got stuff I'm like, I'll wear that again someday. It's in the closet, it's tucked away in the back. I'll get to that one of these days. Then I got other stuff where it's like, yeah, that's way too big for me, but yeah, I might be there someday too. So let's just hold on to that just to be on the safe side. Who knows? You never know these things.
I gave all the bigger stuff away. All the stuff that I had been wearing
Okay.
the last few years, it's all gone. So I'm committing to this size.
Yes,
Um,
conviction.
yep, absolutely. Yep. So I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but it felt like, well, one, I wanted to clean my closet, and two, like it felt like, no, I've maintained this now for about a year, so I'll be able
Lifestyle
to.
change. You're there, man.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
All right. All right. I got everything shared. Everything is where I should be. I'm sure I forgot something, but hey, let's kick off a podcast, and like we said, we'll keep it kind of loose, kind of like we did during training camp. We'll of course touch on the trenches at the top, but then we'll kind of keep it loose. Take some questions and have some fun with this.
Well, it's preseason for us too. That's what you're saying. Yeah, we're still trying to get the kinks out. So, okay, all right. Well, let's get into this. Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Burkus, a writer for Windy City Gridiron, and I'm joined by the editor of that fine website, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, the Bears wore their uniforms and practiced against another team wearing their uniforms, and they scored more points than that team. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm the same way, man. This is preseason. I like preseason. I've always liked it. I enjoy watching the young guys compete. I like seeing guys you don't expect to play. Get some playing time. I want to see them fight for a roster spot, but it's practice. I mean, these are practice. They've always been practice. There's no point in getting too high, too low. But then again, we are doing the post-game show for the first time, I think, ever. So maybe we should get a little fired up and have some, meatball takes out there. Super Bowl, Super Bears. Let's go.
Just the first step in a long journey, my friend.
There it is. Let's go.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, we'll get into a bunch of stuff. What we're gonna do is we're gonna start this show, like every show, with our trench tribute, and then we will talk in an open forum, and then at the end we'll kind of take some Q&A. For those of you joining us and just joining us now, if you're interested in one of our T-shirts that we've got going on with the 500 level, put your size in. We'll draw for that during this episode, and we'll get a T-shirt out to somebody. If you're interested in going checking those out, Lester put an article up with our first 5 designs on the website, so you can see what we're working with, or head over to 500 level and check out the Chicago Bears stuff. The coolest stuff is what I helped design. And if you throw in promo code Gridiron20, you get 20% off that order. And it helps us out too, because we want to show that we're pushing sales to them, and we want to continue to get cool designs on cool players. So make sure that you're doing that and helping our partners out. But let's start with the trench tribute. So what stuck out to you along the trenches today?
I thought the line was pretty solid. I know both of us were a little concerned with the depth, after going to training camp, but I was content with what I saw. I thought that the starting unit, of course, they were missing Nate Davis. It was Jatiri Carter. It was slotted in there with the starters. But those 2 big touchdowns, both were keyed by blocks from the guys up front. And I just think that this is what you want. You want your line to make these plays. You want the receivers to make the yak. That's NFL football. It's not all about throwing a deep, throwing here. It's getting the guys the ball in the hands of your playmakers, letting them make some plays. And if your guys up front are doing their job, it makes everything easier.
Yeah. Did you have a specific person, or just like, you're just happy? You're just a happy
I'm
guy.
happy with Tevin Jenkins. I saw Darnell Wright make a nice seal block on an outside run. I saw him in the pass for a little bit. Cody Whitehair was hustling downfield. Carter, I already mentioned. Braxton Jones was out in front on some plays. Pretty much the starting 5, they all had some moments where I'm like, okay, I like what I see from these guys here. And then even when the backups got in, they weren't as clean as the starters, but overall, man, I have no complaints about the offensive line, and then the defensive linemen too. Some of those guys flashed, which is nice to say. But I'll let you take some of the guys on defense.
Well, I'm just again, it's fake football, but this team had no rush last year, none. And I looked at the stats at the end of the game: 8 sacks. 8.
Yeah,
I mean,
crazy.
okay, it's against Malik Willis and Will Levis, and those guys are. I mean, Will Levis, if he is going to start, he's going to kill uh Carr. What's the David Carr's
David
record,
Carr's right.
right? I mean, he's just going to destroy because he just can't see anything. I think he might be like have some like peripheral vision problems because I watched a little bit of his college tape. I mean, I just don't think he sees things, but it's kind of open season on a guy like that doesn't have any sense of pressure. But 8 sacks, right? Four on each of those quarterbacks for the Titans. But I wanted to ask you about Terrell Lewis because he grabbed 2 sacks, and we were both pretty impressed with what we saw from him at camp. And so, do we think that Terrell Lewis may have found his way into a system that complements his abilities, and we may have an uncovered gem on our hands?
Well, he was drafted to play outside linebacker in a 3-man front. So he was what the Bears used to run. He was playing that role. And coming out of college, he was at Alabama. He always was pretty good getting after the quarterback. Maybe it's just easier for him now that he doesn't have to worry about some of the linebacker responsibilities. His job now, especially in this game here, was see quarterback, get quarterback. That's what his role was. Like you said, we were at camp a couple days, and he flashed there. He has a pretty good first step. He has a pretty good bend. He has some good hand usage. I mean, I didn't think he was a lock to make the roster, going into the game. He just keeps impressing. He keeps doing what he has to do. And then, the other side, the other backup defensive end, Travis Gibson, he flashed today too. So maybe the edges are a little better than what Bears fans all think.
Yeah, I mean, well, once you have a legitimate guy like Yannick Ngakoue at the edge of the front, it's kind of like the wide receiving core we talked about a lot with DJ Moore, right? Where you have that alpha number one, and then that kind of sets everybody else in a more appropriate spot. So you get Yannick Ngakoue in there; he's a legitimate number one rusher. Yes, we know that he doesn't defend the run particularly well, but like he's a legitimate rusher. And so these other guys now are your number 2, your number 3, and maybe the Bears have a bunch of guys that are 2.5, 3, like maybe they're not even true 2s, but that's okay if you've got a stable and you can rotate in. And that's really what a defense like this will thrive on, is keeping these guys fresh. So if you can get Terrell Lewis, maybe Gibson comes back. It seemed like he had kind of a slow start to camp. Maybe you have a few guys that can add those snaps in, then you can see what a quality defensive line rotation could be. It could be enough until you add more juice in, right? Like, which we've all been looking at this free agency next year and draft next year as adding in more edge help. But right now, you may go with just like a deep rotation that may be able to get us through this 2023 season and not have a repeat of 2022, where the worst rush numbers in the league.
And then another thing that really helps those edges, of course, is interior pressure. And, the Bears had a little bit of that today. Zach Pickens, who has not had the best of camps, it's been talked about quite a bit on our side as well. I mean, some of our guys were down there. He just didn't flash much. I mean, Javon Dexter, from a physical standpoint, he's still working on the get off, obviously, but he's flashed in camp quite a bit. It's not always been flashing good, but sometimes flashing bad. Pickens has kind of been a guy. He's just kind of been there. And then here he is, the first time the pads are on, he's out on the field, gets a sack. He had a tackle for loss. He was to get some nice penetration.
Fumble recovery too.
So, these 2 second-round draft picks for the Bears, Dexter and Pickens, man, this is it's interesting what's happening here. All of a sudden the Bears go from, I'm not saying the D-line is good by any means. I mean, they still have a ways to go. They still have to prove it, obviously, in a game. But this is the post-game show. This is the time for some meatball takes. So, no, maybe not. But I thought Pickens was impressive today.
Yeah, totally. And again, like you said, that was one of the notes that I had. I wanted to make sure we talked about. You have these daily crumbs, and we were able to contribute a few of those crumbs because we were at camp a couple days. But other guys that are there every day, or you get some guys that are like us that are able to come in for a few days, and they sort of drop their observations, right? And the more you heard or didn't hear about Zach Pickens, you're like, oh, okay, well, here's a guy that's probably just not going to do much as a rookie. He'd probably stay on the 53, but he doesn't dress. He doesn't get a lot of snaps, right? He might be one of those guys. And you get him into a game, and to see what he does, right? Like that's what the preseason's fun for. And, see, the other thing we have to remember is the Titans might have the worst offensive line in football.
What about Peter Skoronski? I mean,
Oh, who was that? Was it Kevin Fishbane? If we had a tweet of the week, that we might have put that one up. But Kevin Fishbane, who I think is joking.
I'm pretty sure he has a good sense of humor. Yeah, I think he was kind of playing with that.
But here's the thing about that is that put an emoticon, an emoji on there, right? Like just like put the like wink face at the end of it. Like that's what I do because I don't really want people to like think that I'm being serious when I'm trying to make a joke. But to each their own. But he said something effective. This is probably a really big game for Peter Skoronski after the Bears passed up on drafting him in the draft.
Well, at WCG in the comment section, we have a sarcasm font, which kind of helps because these days, sarcasm, satire, that's lost on a big part of the population. So it's tough. I mean, but again, that's part of it. I mean, if you want to throw it out there, it kind of helps you see who really doesn't get it, who's not in on a joke. I think sometimes that's a little more fun to kind of throw those out there. And if someone gets mad at you, you're just like, oh my God, this guy doesn't get it. It's clearly a rib. It's clearly a satire, but those things happen. But on the rewatch, I am going to try and watch him play because I did like him coming out, and I did find it interesting that the Titans do have him playing guard, which a lot of analysts said he would be playing guard in the NFL. That's where he's starting to guard for the Titans. If the Bears would have picked him, he would have been moved to guard there as well. So I'm quite happy with how the draft turned out for the Bears. There is no hindsight drafting here. I like Darnell Wright. I think he's going to be a good pro.
And before we move on from this Dexter Pickens stuff, I just wanted to like kind of do a little bit of a recap. And this is why you have to wait until the actual season plays out. And especially for these rookies, they kind of, okay, like how they do. And again, defensive linemen, I think you can judge pretty quick because you should be able to get on the field early as a defensive lineman and make an impact. If you got to put on weight and all that kind of stuff, learn more moves, all that stuff you can get better. But from a mental standpoint, you can get on the field as a defensive lineman early. When the draft happened, everybody on their pre-draft rankings, every ranking that I saw anyway, had Dexter ahead of Pickens. Like that was just pretty standard. And then when the draft happened, there were a lot of people that showed the slow get off highlights from Dexter, which we've investigated a little bit and feel like it's a lot of that might just be the technique that they were asking them to play and all that kind of stuff. They're basically hold the line, two gap, all this kind of stuff. And so then like there's this like, well, I actually like Pickens a lot better. The Pickens pick I like a lot better than the Dexter pick. That was a lot of the swell of conversation after that tape came out. And then camp started and you didn't hear anything from Pickens. You didn't hear anything positive, but you heard a lot of good stuff about Dexter. And so then everybody's kind of, I always liked the Dexter pick, and the Pickens pick I didn't really like that much, and it's like, guys, what are you doing? Just wait. You don't have to like plant your flag and any of this stuff. Wait until they get on the football field and see what these guys are. That's where I'm at. Just kind of wanted to make a general observation of what I read and see on Twitter. You don't have to jump in and like constantly change what you said your opinion was. Just say your opinion and then wait till it actually happens on the football field.
The other Bears defensive tackle they drafted, Travis Bell. He had a half sack late in the game. I thought he showed some explosiveness. I know the Bears are high on him as a 7th round pick. I mean, Ryan Poles talked about what a great character the guy has. Really excited to have him on the roster. 7th round pick though, probably not going to make the roster. But if he keeps flashing like this, I could see him being the one guy. Every year there's a guy as the preseason winds down, you think, oh my God, they can't cut him. They'll never make it back to the practice squad. And, 99.9% of those guys always make it back to the practice squad because every team has those guys who are trying to sneak back to themselves. And most teams don't care what's going on with the Bears. So Travis Bell's that guy. I mean, he has some, he has some juice. He has some nice hands. He has some power at the point of attack. So nice developmental prospect here in Travis Bell.
A little shorter guy, right? Relatively speaking,
stout.
For a defensive lineman, very stout, kind of fire hydrant build kind of guy. So, that'll be interesting. So, okay, again, early break today because we're just doing the Trench Tribute, and then we're going to do a little open forum here with our thoughts before we get into Q&A. So stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, Lester, let's talk about the Chicago Bears winning a preseason game 23-17 over the Tennessee Titans. The floor is yours. What would you like to open with?
We talked a little bit about the rookie class earlier. Let's keep it going with Tyreek Stevenson, cornerback. I thought he had a nice game. He's very feisty. We kind of heard about him being feisty from some national guys that were at House Hall. They were mentioning how he's kind of a bit lippy, a bit physical, and he is from the Miami University. That kind of goes with the territory there. So he was in a battle with Terrell Smith during camp. Smith, of course, has got a little small injury he's kind of dealing with. He didn't play in the game. Stevenson shine, man. I mean, if second round draft, you're expecting something out of him, but if he can kind of show that, he had 7 tackles in the game, 1 tackle for loss, a pass defense. I think Stevenson may have kind of taken the lead in that battle for the starting corner spot, along with Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, I completely agree. And as again, something we've talked about many times, corner is a very difficult position to learn. You're going to get beat up. You're going to take your lumps as a rookie, but we like a lot of what we've heard and what we've seen out of Terrell Smith. Like, I'm not taking anything away from him. That's great. Like, I mean, if he can be a guy that competes, or maybe he's the top backup, that's great. But clearly Tyreek Stevenson is drafted because he had a little bit more of a higher ceiling, and you expect him to maybe be able to come in and play earlier. And like you said, he's from Miami, and those guys, DBs from Miami, right? Those guys have a little bit of swag. And so it's not surprising that he came in and sort of had that, like, I belong attitude. And it was nice to see him. I mean, he closes quick. Like, I mean, he diagnoses plays, closes quick, and he's a willing hitter. And so I think that was a very nice debut from him to a lot of Bears fans that, tuned into their first preseason game, maybe haven't been following along. Who's that guy? Right. Like, kind of, it's one of those, like, the Leo on the couch, like, yeah. Hey, I know what's that? I like that, right? DB that wants to come up and hit. So yeah, I agree. Definitely popped off the screen to me, and was a nice debut for him.
I thought he played a bit more than I thought he would. I know the Bears played a few of their name guys, so to speak, a bit longer than I thought, but they want to get a look at these guys. They want to get a look at him in some live action. But like I said, he had a nice game. The injury to Smith does not seem serious. Of course, we'll never know because the Bears don't, they don't say what actually is going on with some of these players. But from what the beat guys said, they didn't notice anything, severe happen. I'm guessing he'll be back. Bears play preseason again in a week. We'll have a chance to see both those guys out there.
So let's talk about the 2 big touchdown plays on the first 2 drives from the first team offense, with Justin Fields playing quarterback during those 2 very abbreviated drives. First one was capped off with a 62-yard DJ Moore screen taken to the house. And then the next drive was a 56-yard Khalil Herbert screen taken to the house. So you got Juice Herbert, and you've got the new number 1 wide receiver in DJ Moore doing incredible things with the ball in their hand. That's what you want to see. So what was with the hating on Twitter from some people, including Bears beat writers, that were like, basically wake me up when he does X, Y, or Z. Like, you spent the whole offseason saying he can't do the little stuff.
Yeah.
And then that's exactly what he does in the first 2 drives, is hand it off to playmakers that go and make plays. And 1, thank you, DJ Moore, for being on this team. And 2, thank you, Khalil Herbert, for getting involved in the passing game, because yes, please. Right. That's exactly what I want to see. I want to see both of those things.
3 for 3, 129 yards, 2 touchdowns, 158.3 passer rating.
I believe that's perfect.
That's a perfect pass. Yeah, exactly. So social media is just strange, because some of these guys were complaining the entire offseason about Justin Fields. Oh, he doesn't take what the defense gives him. He's trying to do it all on his own. He's trying to, make plays with his feet. Oh, he's just, he's chucking the ball deep all the. Well, here he is, taking what the defense gives him. And the DJ Moore pass, a little behind him, but it was still catchable ball. DJ Moore, that's what you want your legitimate number 1 wide receiver to do: make a play and make another play and go to the house. And then the pass to Khalil Herbert, he escaped some pressure there. It was a real nice play by Fields. He made the pass to Herbert. Herbert took it to the house. Herbert talked about he worked on his long speed this offseason, so we saw it happen right there. The thing with the Herbert touchdown, go.
And amazing finish to the end of the run.
Yes.
Like, I mean, like, that was like nose for the end zone. Like, by all rights, he should have been tackled at like the 5. But he had the nose for the end zone to complete the touchdown. I mean, there's just like, I'm number one Juice Herbert fan, right?
Juice
Like, I mean,
Herbert.
I
There
get
he
it.
is.
It's well established, but also that was awesome. So sorry, keep going.
We're talking about the play here. A lot of people, after the play happened, they went back and they watched the replay. They went back and they checked the screenshots. Oh, they were at a couple guys downfield too early. Okay, if you have to check the replay, if you have to get a screenshot, you have to zoom it in to see, with the line of scrimmage. If you're doing all this stuff to discredit the play, let that go. It's just ridiculous. Were they past the 1 yard buffer? Possibly, but it's when the ball is released from his hand. That's a bang bang play for a referee to make. That's a play they probably don't make, in a real game, let alone a practice game. So it happens. The Bears may have caught a break. Who cares? There's so much, drama on Twitter, especially from fans of other teams. They're trying to discredit whatever Justin Fields does. It's who cares, but if it was their guy, it'd be okay. But since it's the Bears guy, it's a problem.
The number of people that need to have their priors confirmed,
yeah.
and they will do anything they can to make that happen. Like, it's unbelievable to me. As someone who spent a lot of time studying different sciences, not to get into that, but that is my professional training as a scientist. I just want more data. I want more data so that I can make a better decision, right? You've known me for almost a decade. How many times have I told you that? I want more data. I want to be able to see more, right? The number of people that want to make an opinion before they see anything and then try to retrofit anything that happens under that umbrella, it's just, I don't get it. I really don't understand what the point is. Like, just wait and watch. And that's the fun part of being a football fan, is seeing what your team's going to do and then figuring it out after you see it, not trying to predict what's going to happen. Anyway, sports writers used to actually write about what happened and not just have to prognosticate what's going to happen and then try to pretend like they got it right every time. I don't know.
Well, it seems like a lot of guys, they'll make an opinion on something and they do everything they can to make their original opinion valid. I got no problem. If I'm wrong about something, if I'm wrong about a play, or if I'm wrong about a guy I think is going to do this or a guy who's going to do that, it happens. That's just, I'm going to admit it because it's not that big a deal to me. I don't really care if I was wrong on this player. If I thought, David Montgomery was going to be this and he ended up being that, I don't care. If I thought, Justin Fields was this, I think Justin Fields would be the guy. If he's not the guy, what am I going to do? Cry about it or keep trying to twist the narrative to fit what I wanted to believe? I thought Mitch Trubisky was going to be the guy. I had some doubts. I had some concern about certain areas, but, it kind of at some point during his tenure, my opinion changed. And I think if you're not changing your opinion as someone who likes to cover the football, who understands it, who tries to analyze the game, if you don't change your opinion when the data changes, you're a jackass. You're just trying to be a troll. And that's basically what some of these guys are doing, is they're sticking to the guns no matter what. They're trying to troll things out there because they love the engagement and they know it riles people up.
Yeah, that's probably why I'm never going to be great at that part of the reporting thing, because I just don't really think that way. So,
but this is the post game. We should get more.
We should. So I've got a couple of post game then questions for you based on what we saw today. So I'm gonna the running back spot. You're not going to carry 6 running backs, right? No. Especially if you're going to carry a fullback in Blasting game, which we believe he's probably going to be one of the guys that are going to make the final roster. So we feel pretty confident that you're going to see Juice Herbert, you're going to see Deonta Foreman, and you're going to see the rookie Roschon Johnson make the final 53. But there's a battle going on, and some people don't want to carry another running back. I understand that, but I think that there's a real chance that there's going to be one additional spot here, and that spot I think is going to come down to Travis Homer versus Trestan Ebner. Now, I have been on record, I think, of saying that I like Homer a lot more than Ebner. I just didn't really see it in practices with Ebner. I really didn't like what I saw from Ebner last year during game action. And so I am admitting to you right now that when I watch these two guys, I'm a little bit biased because I have brought in some feelings here. So I'm curious to you, what you saw today. Do you have a sense of where that roster spot might go to?
I also like Travis Homer. When they made the signing at first, I'm like most Bears fans, who the hell is this guy? But then you go into the tape, you kind of see what he does, what he did in Seattle. I looked at some of his college tape. He's a quick player. He has good feet, good acceleration. He's outstanding on third downs out of the backfield. He's pretty good with his receptions. He's also a good pass blocker. So I may be biased as well towards him. But Ebner has had a nice camp so far. I think he may have had the one of the bigger runs. When the pads have gone on a couple days ago at camp. It's a true battle. But I do think Homer, because of the paycheck, he got a pretty good deal. He's pretty good in special teams. I think he sticks. I think the Bears are going to carry, 4 tailbacks along with the fullback. And I think Treston Ebner, I think they like him, but they're going to let him go and bring him back for the practice squad, because you always have a few backs in the practice squad. And right now looks like the best place for Ebner. But a lot of times we see these guys, man, year 1 to year 2, it's a big step. Out of college, Ebner looked explosive. He looked like he was going to be a great third down back. That did not translate, whether it was just him not understanding the pro game. He was thinking too much when he was out there. He looked pretty bad last year. We thought he'd be in the mix for the kick returns as well last year. None of it ever happened. But now here he is, year 2. The playbook is absorbed much better than it was a year ago. He feels more comfortable. He's having a pretty good camp. I mean, he's going to make it a tough decision, but ultimately I think practice squad. And then if there's an injury, because there's always injuries to that position, they'll bring him up and let him get some time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good that you are reflecting my opinion. It's always nice to hear your opinion reflected. Now, I want to ask you. Let's keep going with this kind of idea here. So, Velus Jones Jr. Not a good day. Not a good rookie season, and not a good day today. Had the fumble. Not great reports coming out of camp. A lot on Velus Jones. Is he in danger of losing a roster spot?
I didn't think he was when I looked at the roster, how it was kind of structured. But the more he's having trouble with the punt returns, because ideally you want your returner to do both. You want him to be a kick returner, punt returner. That helps, save a roster spot. Maybe Tyler Scott is your punt returner. We'll see there. But Velus Jones looks like he's fighting himself on all these punt returns. We did it last year too. He had a fumble today. He just doesn't look like he's comfortable. He can't read the ball right. He doesn't really know when to attack the ball. He let one bounce like he did last year too. So if Velus can show he can cover kicks, maybe he has a chance to stick to the roster. But right now, I mean, your top 4 look pretty set. Equanimeous St. Brown, to me, looks like he's a lock because he can play special teams. So Velus Jones, I don't know, man. Maybe Dante Pettis, now that he's healthy, maybe he'll play next week. Maybe, because one thing Pettis gives you is he can field the punt. He's smart back there. He has not shown the same kind of explosiveness he did in college, where he was one of the greatest return guys ever in college. It doesn't translate. He hasn't really shown that in the NFL. But if you trust him, I think that's the guy you got to put back there.
It's interesting, and it'll be interesting to see if Ryan Poles can admit that pick maybe it didn't work out. A lot of GMs will, continue to kind of stick with their guys. Seems like Poles might be willing to admit that he's made a mistake, but I'm very curious about that one. And then this one is, it's the post game. So this is me being like as reactionary as I ever get, but do we need to talk about backup quarterback?
PJ Walker did not have the greatest of games, and Nate Peterman looked pretty crisp, but he was playing against 2s and 3s. I don't know. I mean, personally, I think PJ Walker is going to be the guy. I would like to see them cut Peterman, because Peterman's not a guy that's going to have a lot of interest around the league. Peterman can kind of stay home, stay in this playbook, stay in shape. And then if you need a veteran, okay, we need you. There's an injury, we need you to come back. And then keep Badgett on your practice squad as an undrafted free agent. He has nice arm talent. He looks smart with the ball. He looked like a quarterback running the offense, and that's what you kind of want. He threw a ton of passes in college. Yeah, it was small school, but he set a ton of records. He looks like he understands what's going on there. That's what I would do if I was running the show. I would, keep the UDFA, let Peterman, beat it. And then if something does happen, you need a vet, because I think in a game situation, you would trust Peterman over the rookie.
So you're basically saying that you're going to rent out a condo
Yeah.
in Lake Forest and just be like, hey man, if you want to hang here for the fall, it wouldn't be a bad idea. And then in case something happens, you bring him in.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just curious. And I'm again, this is as reactionary as I'll get, but I'm curious if they want to let Peterman play earlier in the next preseason game. I don't know. They've given Walker the clear 2 snaps and all through camp, and you can't overreact to a small slice of a preseason game. But yeah, it looked a little off today. Did not have his best game with him.
Walker seems to want to go deep when he has a chance. So maybe they just got to reel that in a little bit. And kind of like what Fields has done. Fields early in his career would tend to want to go deep. Maybe that's where Walker's headspace is, trying to make the big play. But just take it easy, run the offense, let your skill guys make the plays.
The last note that I have written down, and we'll let you empty your notebook after that, was a boy, the guillotine.
I knew you were coming with that one.
Yeah, it looked pretty good, didn't he?
Yeah. Plus, he had the Taylor Swift shirt on, pregame, so that was.
I know. I'm trying to build, a guillotine support group, to try to get that out there more. So, and I know that there's some Taylor Swift fans, so I did retweet that out. So trying to get our guy from Bleacher Nation to help me push the guillotine name. But in all seriousness, I know he worked really hard in the offseason, and that year 1 to year 2, it can help punters as well. Yeah. Right. And so that year of being in the professional system, working on his game, I think we're going to maybe see a little bit more distance. I mean, he was kind of like league average last year, which I said, like, I think that's pretty good for a punter as a rookie. And I think he might see a little bit more distance on his punts, and I think the accuracy of trying to drop punts inside the 20, inside the 10, I think you're going to see it a little bit. It was actually really impressive showing in practice that first day we were there, where he was just kind of dropping them in at like the 5, and even doing some coffin corner work. So we would love to just see the Bears score every play, but punters can honestly add some legitimate value to your team if you're putting the opposing offense in a hole to start a drive. That's shown by a lot of statistical studies that punters can actually add points to the game or take away points from the other team. So it's not a nothing. Like it's kind of important that you can have a punter that can play decently well and punt, and Chicago wins as well. So I'm hopeful that Gill is going to take that next step.
Well, he averaged 50 yards on his 4 punts. He had a long of 60. He did drop one inside the 20. His net was under 40, but the net, a lot of it is besides hang time. The net also has a lot to do with your coverage units. And since it's a preseason game, a lot of moving parts. The guys they're going to have, when the season starts as your main, punt coverage guys may not be in there right now. So again, the leg he worked on his leg, get the hang time up there. He's booming the ball a little bit now. Like I said, in camp when we were there, he looked pretty good, putting those balls in the coffin corner. So Trenton Gill, I knew you were going to bring him up. That's why I just saved him. Let you drop in the guillotine there and see what happens.
Oh, what about you? Anything left on your notebook that you'd like to talk about?
I think we hit most of it. I mean, I like the play from Isaiah Ford late, where he kind of had a nice move off the line. This is a guy that in camp when we were there, I thought he did some nice things there. I heard some other stuff from the beat guys that were down there talking about him. Long shot to make the roster, but the Bears did just cut Aaron Cruikshank, who was a early fan favorite because of that one-handed catch, but ultimately, it's he's a practice squad hopeful at best. But here's a guy, Isaiah Ford, I think has a good chance to stick around for the practice squad. Help just bolster it. This team will have some difficult cuts for a change. And that's all to Ryan Poles building a roster, getting more depth. There are several guys we didn't have a chance to see play today. So when some of those guys come back, it's going to push more guys down the depth chart. One guy we didn't talk about yet, and that's Noah Sewell, the rookie from Oregon. He's flashing, man. I mean, he's had a nice camp. The beat guys have talked about him. We've heard a lot of nice stuff about Sewell. Of course, he's having his chance here because Jack Sanborn has been injured for most of the offseason. So Sewell's been getting those 1 reps at the Sam. Sewell looks like he belongs for sure. I mean, yeah, it's preseason, but post-game hot take, Noah Sewell looks like that's his job to lose right now at the Sam.
Which would be over Jack Sanborn.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of fans that, how could they do this to Jack Sanborn? He's an undrafted free agent last year. He kind of came in, and if you remember correctly, Jack Sanborn, a lot of fans liked him. Obviously, he's a local kid from Lake Zurich, but he wasn't really on anyone's radar as far as being a starting quality guy, and that's what he ended up turning into because the Bears were so bad. But in preseason games is when he really flashed. He was great on special teams. That helped him make the roster coming out of camp. He kind of, he did just enough to kind of get some reps there as the season went on. They traded Roquan. They put him in the spot, and I thought Sanborn played good. The Bears, they clearly like Sanborn because he was part of a lot of their offseason promo packages. He was in that the Mr. Beef Diner spoof. He was in that. He was on the scorecard for the camp one of the days. So they like Sanborn enough to promote him. So Noah Sewell's just beating him out.
Yeah, and you love to see that, right? Like you want this team to improve. You want this team to be better. You want these draft choices to work out. The Sewell pick, fascinating because coming into the year, if you look at preseason, Jacob Infante could talk about this, I'm sure at length, but you look at where he was at or how he was thought of, Sewell, that is, coming into the last college football season, a lot of people had him as a first-round draft pick. And so he had a bad year. Okay. But you might have just kind of gotten, again, a little bit of a value pick there. And you add him to the two big free agent acquisitions. Now you got a linebacking core that looks like legitimately one of the more talented groups in the entire league. And that isn't to say that Jack Sanborn won't keep that starting job for a while, or maybe he becomes the top backup at the Mike and at the Sam, which that's great, right? That's an incredible trajectory for an undrafted free agent to be able to contribute on special teams and be the top backup at two spots on the defense. You're going to play, you're going to dress, and you're going to be playing for the team that you cheered for as a local kid growing up. Like, what are we talking about here, guys? He can still be a fan favorite. He can still be a guy that you cheer for, even if he's not going to be getting maybe as many reps as we would have projected him at the end of last year when he was like the only legitimate linebacker they had at one point. I think they should have just ran like a 5-1, whatever that would be, 5, right? Because at some point last year they didn't have anybody else. But yeah, absolutely. I think that Sewell's very exciting, and I can't wait until he beats his brother for a sack in one of the Detroit games.
Oh,
I'm just really excited for that. So let's just call it now. Call her shot. So
that worked for me. Yeah. It's funny because a lot of fans, they drafted and they thought, he's going to play edge for the Bears. And I'm like, I can't see him playing edge because of the length. The Bears have a type, they definitely have a type at the edge. And, and Sewell was playing a different scheme his last season at Oregon. Prior to that, he was, I think it was Jacob may have said that, 2 years ago, he was projected as a possible second or third round pick. Scheme change, again, a lot of this stuff is if the talent does not fit the scheme, it's hard really to shine. So here's Sewell kind of slipped through the cracks and I'm going on day 3, and the Bears may have found a steal.
Yeah. Happens every year. Let's hope that it starts happening regularly to the Bears and not these other teams, right?
Yeah.
I hate to see those tweets about, I can't believe that, 31 other teams passed on this guy this many times, and the Ravens take him in round 5, and now it's like, why is it always the Ravens or the Steelers or the Eagles, right? Like, it can't have nice things in Chicago. So hopefully those things start to happen with Ryan Poles and his staff. But I don't have anything else. It's fake football, but it's fun. Bears get a W on the board. Justin Fields has a perfect passer rating in the preseason. You got to love that. I don't care how it came about. Any final thoughts before we click out of this and stick around for the YouTube gang?
I think it's good. I mean, we are giving away a shirt, correct? So what was the rules? And just kind of, we're going to pick a random person that it gives us a size. Like, what are the sizes we have again?
Well, to give away, I've got a medium, a large, and an XL. But we'll figure that out. We'll cut off the podcast here. So for those of you that are just listening on the podcast, thank you for joining us and sticking with us on this recap. Bears win 23-17, and we will come at you with more Bear and Balance throughout the year, where we have a little bit more time to review the tape and give a more balanced perspective. But we did our best to do a quick post game. So stick with us this year. It's going to be a fun one. And until next time, bear down. Okay. So if you're just joining us and you haven't done this yet, and you would like a t-shirt, put your size in the comments. It can only be a medium, a large, and an XL, because that's all they gave me for promo stuff. And then I'll draw somebody random as Lester runs the board here. And then you have to send me your address on Twitter, ideally, or actually on the email. Let's put our email up.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So
you're gonna put our email on the screen there.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Okay.
So
because like with YouTube, it's hard because I can't contact. There's no DM function on YouTube, which is kind of strange. You would think you could message someone.
No, yeah, I can't do it.
Yeah,
so if we pick you, then you'll have to send your
information via email to us.
Yep.
Which is an easy email here.
So why don't you run through and I'll start writing people down, and then I'll do a drawing here.
I just popped this up from Doug because I just like being reminded that DJ Moore is a Bear. I just think it's awesome. Fun to see the Bears the top tier wide receiver in talent. Moore has the it factor. I mean, when's the last time we saw a receiver do this, with Justin Fields? This is the easiest touchdown pass Fields has had in his fake or real football career for the Bears. That's what you want, and there was some guys, like I said, we talked about, they try to discredit it. Come on, this is the NFL game. You're a point guard sometimes. That's fine. Get the ball in your guy's hands. He had a nice pass to Kari Blasingame as well. I'm a big fan of Blasingame. First of all, I love the fullback. It's just because, he's a basic glorified lineman that has the ball in his hands once in a while. So I thought that was cool. So it was nice, Doug again with the punt return game. I think that's it there. The instincts are not there. I'm not sure. Did Bayless return punts in college, or is this a relatively new thing? I'll have to go back and check his numbers at Tennessee. But in his 7 years he was a volunteer, I'm not sure how many punt returns he actually had back there.
A lot of people go to college for 10 years, Lester.
Scale 1 to 10, how ineligible were Whitehair and Carter downfield on Herbert's touchdown catch? I don't think Carter was at all. Like I said, if you got to go back and watch the screenshots, you have to go back and zoom in to kind of see if the ball's in Fields' hands or not. It looked like Carter was like right there on the line. Whitehair probably a couple inches is my guess. But again, it's kind of like when the quarterback throws the ball. If the quarterback's any part of his body is beyond or in the other side of the line of scrimmage, he can throw that ball. So if your toe is on the line of scrimmage, your entire body is over the line of scrimmage, that is a legal forward pass. The same rule applies to ineligible guys downfield. Their entire body has to be beyond a yard to make it ineligible. Whitehair probably a couple inches off there. But again, it's hard to tell when the ball came out of Fields' hands. He kind of lofted it. But again, we're going back. We're screenshotting, which is it's always fun when Twitter does that and they kind of screenshot it to show something happens. It was close. It was close.
All right. Let me do this. I only got 4 people that entered here. So I've got you written down here. So Doug, who tried to enter 7 times, which you can't do that, Doug. I've got Doug, Dave, Accusa. Sorry, man. And Cloudy. So I've got four guys, and then what we'll do here is I'm gonna present my screen here real quick.
I believe I have a 4-sided dice somewhere. I can kind of.
Well, you can do that, but like I'm gonna do a random nut number generator. So
that works.
Minimum 1, maximum 4. I'm gonna hit it once. Number 1. So Doug, you win. Doug, you did it. You entered 17 times. I only put you in once, but you still won. So Doug, send us an email at 2ND City Gridiron. And
do we have the Tevin?
Unfortunately, you don't get to pick your shirt. I'm gonna have to just send you what I have, but sorry. I think I only have 1 XL left.
I think you're gonna get the everybody 1-2 step. But the cool thing about 500 level, like Jeff was saying, our promo code, Gridiron 20% off your order, and we do have a couple more shirts in the works. So that's always kind of fun.
All right, Doug, if you're still with us, I don't have a Tevin XL left, but You can get the Fields and Justin Fields and DJ Moore, not Justin Moore. Everybody Wants You Step, little hip hop reference, or the DJ Moore,
Las Manos
Darnell
Hermanos.
Mooney, the Hands Brothers, Las Manos Hermanos, little Breaking Bad. So you tell me which one you want. Send me your address, and I'll get that out sometime in 4 to 6 weeks. No, I don't know. I'll get it out soon.
Chris is waiting for the guillotine shirt, which is still pending NFLPA approval.
Yeah,
we may have to tweak it a little bit. We may have some violent words they may want us to nix there, but we'll tweak that because that's got to happen. Bears fans love their punters. They love their punters. They love their long snappers. I don't understand what it is, but that's just how Bears fans are. So we got guillotine, and we may have something in the works for Patrick Scales as well, just because. Why not?
Long snapper, man. I went for it. Yeah. I sent 3 new ideas in, and it seemed like they were pretty excited about all 3. So, and then we got to do something with Brisker too. He does that like he's shooting an arrow.
Yeah.
We got to do that one too.
Doug, another question about what story with Nate Davis. On Taylor Dowell's latest Making Monsters podcast, she actually talked about this a little bit. She reached out to someone that covers the Titans to kind of get the story. Apparently, Nate Davis never has played in preseason. That's just kind of his thing. He also had some. We heard this from Bill Zimmerman. Our guy mentioned that the Nate Davis wasn't the greatest of their head coach over there. Kind of doesn't want to fight through injuries. Who knows where he is? I'm guessing Ryan Poles was aware of all of this before he gave him a big money deal. Yeah. He was probably aware how he was during training camp. But ultimately, if he comes in week 1, ready to go and the ball's out, I could care less what happens during practice.
Yeah, it's one of those where again, we can't say that the preseason doesn't matter and then get really upset, with whatever's happening. Maybe it's legitimate, maybe it's not. They don't have to tell you anything in the preseason, and they are very clearly not telling us anything. And Eberflus has been very clear, like he's not going to talk about injuries, right? And so we don't know. We're reading some tea leaves, we're getting some other stuff, and like you say, if he comes out and he plays really well in week 1, and let's do it. But let's also keep it in the back of our mind that maybe this guy is somebody that, like I said, may not fight through an injury, and you want to make sure that we have good depth in the interior offensive line in case something happens and he's maybe not, rushing back to the field. Keeping the back.
The Bears did just sign Logan Stenberg. I probably butchered his name.
Yeah,
out of Kentucky. I remember a couple of years back when he was coming out. I remember him because I would always look at the O-line. Guys, obviously, he had a reputation of being kind of an a-hole, kind of nasty, really nasty demeanor. Yeah, I like those kind of guys on the offensive line, and that kind of rep kind of carried with him in Detroit a little bit. I know I talked to some of the guys that write about the Lions, said the same thing, but they're not too high on him as a prospect. He did not play very well during his time in Detroit. He had 4 starts last year. Kind of lost his job and just wasn't a good fit. Plus, the Lions kind of bolstered what they did there. He was expendable. They let him go. So who knows what happens there? But he needs a long shot, a late guy in camp. But what we saw today of the O-line, not bad. Look at this guy. Axel's out in Sweden, going to bed already.
Man, that's awesome. Well, if we ever come to Scandinavia, I'll look you up.
Nice. Look at this. Can Gill catch punts?
I mean, I don't know that there's a limit on what he can do, but I think that you probably don't want to find that out.
He's not quite the athlete that
he's a
Patrick O'Donnell was.
Yeah, no. Yeah. O'Donnell was like a strapping guy, right? Like, yeah. Gill's a bit more of a string bean. So.
Yeah. Look at Papa Scars, my guy. He likes the QB mechanics from the rookie Badgett.
He throws a nice ball.
He does.
He's got some arm talent, that's for sure.
Nice quick release, holds the ball high. Looked pretty good on his play fakes. So, yeah. How we at here? We got any more here? There it is. Look at Chris doing the research
There we
for
go.
us. 20 punts in college.
That's like 2 a year.
The Bayless Jones jokes never go old. Oh, that's right. He was at USC before he went to Tennessee. I forgot about that. So
It was
just traveling around.
Zimmerman was going back and forth with Jack on he was who's the only Chicago football player to have played a game in his 40s, and I was like, Bayless? and I knew the answer because I picked up some random piece of information at some point, and so I knew what he was getting at. But it had Jack stumped. That is not easy. It is not easy to stump Jack Silverstein. So that was fun to watch his agony play out over a couple of hours on Twitter by not being able to figure that out.
That was a good trivia question. Jim Thorpe, I believe, was the only player. Was he Bears or was he? Was he?
No, it was the Cardinals. So that was probably why it threw Jack a little bit, and then Jack, of course, goes into like another, like he's like, oh well, maybe it's the Yellow Jackets or the Blitz, right? I mean, he's like going like in like the other. It's like it's Cardinals. It's like 1928 or something like that. I don't know why I looked it up to make sure I was right because why not? Pro Football Reference is a site, right? Cool. But for some reason I was doing something, reading about Thorpe and that he came back for a game, and I was like, I think it was with the Cardinals, and it was like one game in 1928. So I mean, it's just one of those things where you read a lot of history stuff and some of that stuff sticks. So
speaking of history, there was a Harlan Hill reference in the game today.
It's my guy.
Badgett won the Harlan Hill Award in college, I believe 2 years ago, which is the best player at Division II. Yeah. So nice.
Yeah. Harlan Hill, man. It's my dude. Put up Randy Moss like numbers basically nice. For his first 3 seasons. Kind of insane. Then he blew out his Achilles, and that was pretty much it. Came back, but wasn't. It was like I honestly think it's the Gale Sayers situation where Gale obviously messed up his knee and then wasn't really ever the same. Came back, got like comeback player of the year, but wasn't the same explosive athlete that he was before that. But he had enough before he went down with the injury to be, I think probably. I mean, he was in early in the Hall of Fame voting, but if he had one fewer great year, like would have been, if that injury would have happened a year earlier. Harlan Hill, it was after his 3rd year. I mean, it's just not enough to get you in the Hall of Fame. And why I talk about him so much is one, like he really was the best receiver that the Bears have ever had relative to the time periods, and which I think is the only way that you can do that. But you can forget about these guys, right? Yeah. If they're not in the Hall of Fame, they just kind of get forgotten about. And some of these players were really great. So that's why I talk about them a lot.
It's okay. It's good to keep history alive.
It was like, same thing with Sprinkle. Like I would talk about Sprinkle a lot, and then they put him in the Hall of Fame. I'm like, okay, well, I don't have to do that anymore because now he's a Hall of Famer. So people
got his notoriety. Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, not while he was alive, but what are you gonna do? That it?
I think that's it. I think we're gonna wrap this up here. It was postgame was fun. Like this postgame is okay because it's a little more chill. Regular season postgame, I've done it a couple times as a guest on some stuff, and I just I prefer to kind of wait, watch the pressers, see why something happened the way it did. A lot of times the interceptions or mistakes are made, and right away as fans, Justin Fields sucks. But then okay. Now that I've had to watch the film, the receiver slipped, fell down, timing was off, whatever it was, So we like to kind of wait, take a breath, watch the film, hear the pressers, see what's going on, then come back at it. And we'll do that once the regular season kicks off with our usual categories.
Yeah. I mean, I think you probably are the same way. When you watch a football game, you pick up a lot. You pick up things that maybe other people don't, or other people pick up things that you didn't see. Right. I mean, like whatever. But you go back and watch it again, and then it gives you an opportunity to see that from a fresh, okay, all right, okay, he was lined up there, that makes sense, right? And so it starts to kind of fall in, and the order of events starts to make a little more sense. Oh, they called that early, and then they called the counter off of that in the third quarter. Okay, like I see that now. You're just not going to see it in
Yeah.
the first viewing, and then if you really want to dig in, then you watch it again in the all-22, and then you're about done. Especially last year when I watched the same game, what, 3-4 times, like to prep for all the shows, for all the different angles we were taking, and they're 3 and 14. I'm like, I'm so sick of I'm watching game film, but you see a lot, and that's the point of going back and watch the tape. So for those of you that don't do that and have the extra time, that's how you start to see stuff.
Exactly. Keep it balanced.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Doug, excited to get your email. We'll send that out hopefully soon. If I don't get it out in the mail this week, it'll be next week because I take off for Indianapolis. Be at Bears camp. So those of you that are at camp, either one of those days, I'm going to be at the combined practice both days. And you see me, come up, say hi.
Nice.
And we'll end it there.